Hello, my name is Julia Robertson and I'm the founder of Garland Therapy. And today I want to talk to you about enriched environment. Now, I am sure that you have heard of enriched environment, but if you haven't, this is a brand new introduction. But if you have, you may have heard about it more from a behavioral perspective or a psychological perspective for dogs and how it can really, really help confidence. What I want to talk to you today is how it equally importantly can help a dog's physicality from all types of dogs. And this we find as an organization incredibly useful activity for dogs to be able to participate in. So I wanted to show you the fundamentals of it and why it can help physically. And just give you a bit of a lead on the type of things you can use and what to use and perhaps what not to use. So let's get going with a few slides. Okay, so just a very brief intro to Garland Therapy. We started over 20 years ago, and since then we've been helping dogs physically. So we treat dogs with chronic muscle dysfunction, chronic muscle pain, but we use a very targeted methodology of massage, including understanding postures and biomechanics. And the way we do this is by then getting the dog's whole picture so we can see them as a whole. Then we can give them good rehabilitation, which of course includes massage, and also can often include giving them an enriched environment. So why would we do that? And what do we mean by enriched environment? What we hopefully don't mean is a situation like this. So a puppy finding a loo roll and thinking, great, I'll make my own enriched environment, which it can equally be a very unsafe thing for that puppy to do, as well as create quite a bit of mess. But if we have a puppy, fine, you expect a mess. So it's actually doing something like this, but within a safe and controlled environment. So let's just wind it back. Why do we need something like this for our dogs? Now, as I said, I'm looking at it from a physical perspective, not from a behavioral perspective. So, excuse me. So when we are walking our dogs, most of us have to put them on a leash and take them for a walk. So therefore, they end up walking in a lot of straight lines. This is not something that we necessarily want to be able to do, but it's something that we're slightly almost forced to do within our own environments. So walking in a straight line is often, well, it isn't the best thing for a dog to be doing continually, because a dog needs to develop their body as a whole. But as it says here, often this is the safest and also the easiest way to get our dogs out. So we need to encourage them to have a more rounded type of exercise. So why is that? Well, dogs need to perform many different actions to fulfill their lives, from self-care, like you see here. You can see here a dog cleaning themselves. It's a really extreme action, and they need to be able to be mobile and use their functional anatomy to be able to create these actions so they can, in this case, look after themselves. But in so many different situations, they need to be able to perform different actions safely. Now, the dog's body is built in a round, not in a round, but completely balanced from inside to outside, from top to bottom, from front to back. So often when we're going in straight lines, we're only developing certain muscles to work together, but we need all their muscles to work together so they can move in all sorts of directions. And like this, perform lots of different actions. Also, so they can have fun and exploring for fulfillment. This is quite an extreme picture, but it still shows how much movement a dog's body could potentially have. And this is something that we want to develop an aid through our own exercise routines with them. But of course, often we're quite limited with that. We also want to really work on getting them to use their nose, because more and more things now are coming out saying, yes, that is what we want. I mean, we've always known that, but it's lovely now that there is even more and more science behind the fact that dogs using their nose is so important. But from a physical perspective, it is vital, because it also puts them in the correct anatomical position for them to develop all these muscles that I was talking about, the ones on the top and the bottom, the side, and in between. That is really, really important. So nose work is great. So we ultimately want dogs to be able to have safe fun when they're able. So as I said, quite often we're not able to just walk out of our houses and allow our dogs to be able to run and do whatever they wish. We have to take them somewhere, or we have to create a situation where they can safely. But of course, you can see just these dogs in this picture, they are moving their limbs and their bodies in very different ways to just a straight line. And to be able to do that, their body needs to be stable but flexible enough to be able to achieve this. So we need to practice those moves before we allow them to really do them safely. We want them to be able to develop as far as possible their full range of movement. Now this, I thought I'd put up as quite an extreme play picture. I think someone intervened quite soon after, because you can see it sort of winding up. But why I wanted to show you is that all of these dogs have got their legs in very different positions, their bodies twisted, all of those things they should be able to do safely. But as I said, unless they practice them slowly, especially as a puppy, but equally as an adolescent and older dog, they can't do it safely when they're doing it quickly. Because to do it slowly, they're actually practicing those moves through activating the muscles they need to be able to perform them. So when we talk about muscles, we're not just talking about muscles that move us, we're also talking about the muscles that stabilize the body, both the limbs, the spine, every part. So there are lots of different muscles that do different functions, but we want to get all of them working together. So say, for instance, this white dog here, so the stabilizer muscles that stabilize that limb are working, so she can hold that limb in that position safely, but equally flexibly. So all these actions are very important to practice, but not just practice, but keep on practicing as a dog gets older. So I think we sometimes expect that our dogs can just naturally become athletes, but actually we really can't. We have to condition bodies just like an athlete does. It's not just about running fast, it's about your whole body working together as a whole. So some people can call it conditioning. So you've got to condition a body to be able to perform all these actions, both slowly and ultimately quickly. And as I said, sometimes we're quite limited within our own environments to be able to do that. So this is where enriched environment can just be amazing. So these are some dogs just running freely out and about, and you can just see some of the extreme movements and actions just from a screen grab, from a video that they're actually making. So for a dog to develop their body in a way that would be balanced from a physical perspective, they need to encourage different muscles to engage. Vital when they're puppies, but also when they're adults too. Now, if you're just watching this video, you probably wouldn't see that action. You would see that action very quickly. But you can see how extreme it is, but then how the back end has got to be able to stabilize that movement to push her on into the next stride. Like this one here, she's moving, she's come to a stop, in fact, and now she's actually preparing to move. So her legs are wide apart there and also very close together and crossed there. All of these things mean that all her muscles everywhere, side, inside, outside, top, bottom, back to front, are working together. And that's what we want to achieve for our dogs generally. So it is difficult to be able to do that if you don't have the facilities, especially when they're puppies, to be able to provide that, especially in a safe way. So if we just take a couple of those pictures and then put it next to pictures from an enriched environment, and I will explain more about it later, you can see that we are replicating very similar actions in a very slow and safe environment. So this is really important to look at how the dogs in both these pictures here are moving their body in quite an extreme way, which is fantastic, whether you are in a development situation, say you're looking as a puppy or an adolescent, or if these dogs were a little uncomfortable or lame. This is very quietly and gently and safely encouraging them to move their body as a whole. So it enables and promotes the dogs to replicate range of movements that they would naturally do when they're free walking or out in a free environment. Again, we've just seen actually these pictures, and here they are being replicated within an enriched environment. And these are really, really important. For instance, this movement here creates that dog's leg to go medially or towards the center line. The muscles that are working there on her inner thigh are equally important to support her hip. So these muscles help hip stability within a dog. Likewise, if they go outwards, they also are developing to also help hip development. And if they're being if they are asking to go through these actions slowly, like they are in an enriched environment, that really helps the body to engage all the systems to be able to connect this action together. So we're talking about nerves, we're talking about fascia, we're talking about muscles. So what we are actually talking about is that big word that you will come across, which is proprioception, which is basically the dog knowing where their body is and being able to move according to what they have to without actually having to think about it, but naturally, so the whole body moves as one. So here are a few more actions, and some of these are really quite extreme and wonderful, because here, this dog here is just crouching to find that treat that's just round the corner. But this one's got one leg up, one leg down, and the head in the other direction, moving on different planes of movement. This is one of my particular favorites, because you can see the neck here, but also the rotation of the head to look for treats under this object. That is something that very few dogs are asked to do or need to do on a daily basis. So something like this can really keep their heads very, very flexible on their necks, and their necks flexible on their bodies. So just a few others here is a nice leg head rotation to the left here. That's a good neck extension. And another one. Necks are really, really important on the dog to maintain a flexibility within them, especially when they get older. But when they're younger and puppies, that using their neck, so scenting, really helps them to engage their body. So here, as you can see, you've got scenting, and you've also got that mobility of the dog. So you've got the head down, connecting their whole body. It is just a fantastic thing to be able to offer your dog, as well as being incredibly fulfilling. And as you will know or learn fantastic for confidence for them, especially if they're having to have a look around these unusual objects that they may not see in any other situations. So standing on things like paper and shredding it, yeah, allow them to shred it, just like that first slide, but in a controlled environment, so you can ensure that what they're shredding is good and also safe for them to be able to shred. And not just puppies, older dogs love to shred too. It's a fantastic way for exercise, but also to ease frustration. So these are wonderful neck extensions, and all this dog is doing is exploring some of these objects around with treats. You don't need to have treats, but putting treats, hiding them, can be a fun thing for a dog to have to look at and look for. So puppies, this is just, honestly, it's one of really the most essential things that you can do, because you can recreate so many different safe situations. So you don't need a garden, you don't need to go out, you can do this in your own home, and you can introduce them to different objects, different things to walk over safely around. We've already looked at vacuum cleaners and umbrellas. You don't need to put it all in, you just can introduce different things at different times. But it is fantastic for their movement, their action. Look, every one of this puppy is really interested and curious, and with their head down, which is creating really good movement patterns and helping join that puppy up. So you can do it outside, you don't need to do it inside. This is a fantastic enriched environment. I mean, really spread out, so the dogs have got lots of room to move. If you're working with a dog that is slightly compromised from a physical perspective, try and keep it a bigger area or less things in a smaller area and keep the movement going. But this is just fantastic. These two dogs can do it together, which you can if you've got the space. Dogs can do this together, and they can have the most wonderful, fulfilling time just investigating different objects and looking for treats, or just investigating different objects. When setting it up, try not to make the area too confined. We're very tempted to think, oh, more, put more things in, but actually less is more. I mean, really take all these cushions out, even that basket out, and maybe have a few poles for them to walk over, but have this box and have that funny thing to walk over, and that box for the dog to investigate. And then maybe add something else, but allow her to walk around. It's important that they can walk around. So this is a really lovely enriched environment too, completely different. It's got a lot of things in. Now, this sort of enriched environment would be great for a puppy, because you've got a little snuffle mat there, you've got boxes, you've got toys, you've got all sorts of things. They can even put their nose in there if they feel confident, which would be great. However, I would not recommend this type of enriched environment for a dog that maybe has a bit of arthritis or a bit lame, because what you want to achieve from a physical perspective with this type of enriched environment is, as I've already said, continual moving. We don't want them to stand still too long, because standing in a particular posture may not be a good posture for them to be standing in. So they're holding their muscles statically in that position for a long time, or even for a few seconds, which can be quite detrimental. We want to keep them flowing. So if you're using something like this, make sure the treats are easier to find, so they can walk round and over different objects more easily and keep that flowing movement. So what type of objects can you use? I mean, sort of anything that's safe. We've put a few things here. It's quite nice to put a little bit of maybe a cushion or something down, more of a pad. That's quite good, so that the surface is a little bit uneven. But if the dog isn't happy to go on that surface, they don't need to. So you've got to give them room for choice. So yeah, you can use golf clubs, you can scrunch up lots of paper. I like to call this a bit of a pre-cycle. So before you recycle, give it to your dog to pre-cycle, and then you can recycle it. So you can hide treats in there, in the boxes, under rugs. You can even make a little up and over, tiny. Don't ever put anything in for a dog to walk over that is higher than their wrist joint. So quite low. And that is the safest rule to really go by. So why incorporate enriched environments in your dog's life? So it can, as we've already talked about, promote natural movement in all dogs. Neck extension, nose to the ground or floor, which really, as I've already said, helps all that total muscle development from the stability muscles to the movement muscles. Encourages lateral movement. And that's what I was showing you with that picture with the dog's legs moving away from the body. Medial movement is towards the body. So all those movements help develop those hip muscles to actually help that hip stability. Body awareness, already mentioned proprioception, but also spatial awareness. So where their body is within their own environment. An all over body workout. Now, it may not look very much, but if you give one of these to your dogs to do, they will be really quite tired after it, because not only the mental side of it, but the physical side of it, they will be moving in all sorts of different directions, and maybe even directions they haven't done before, which is great to encourage this because it's slow and it's safe. Active sniffing can help keep your dog calm, as it's been shown to actively lower their heart rate. So even if you have a dog that is a little bit active or a little bit excitable, try it, because it doesn't just work from a psychological perspective, it will help your dog physically. So it can be used for any dog of any age and any level of mobility. Just adjust how you set it up. Very subtly, but it is important to make those adjustments. It can be relaxing and yet stimulatory. So that's an interesting way of putting it. It is relaxing, but the stimulatory part is the fulfillment. And dogs love to do this. And you may start and your dog may be a bit confused or not interested. Just give them time. Give them time. Don't encourage them to move in a different direction. Don't show them where the treats are. Leave them alone and let them work it out for themselves, and let them work their way around the area. When you are setting up an area, give them enough room so they can also escape from the area too if they've had enough. Right, so here's just suggestions, but really cardboard boxes, magazines, newspaper, brilliant. Loo rolls, kitchen rolls. You can even put things in them if you like. Then you can add novel items, especially if they're a little bit concerned or you want to get them used to it. Sports equipment. I mean, it's sort of anything that's safe that you can leave or put in there. You can put old shoes, but not really recommended for puppies for obvious reasons. We don't want them to particularly be chewing them if they would start chewing them. But if you can give puppies things safe to chew, like cardboard and paper and things like that, and toys, of course, then it's much better. It does discourage them from obviously going for our shoes. Serving trays, the things that you might get with coffee or something like that, that's quite great to be able to put treats in. Bubble wrap, that's great for them walking over, but not for puppies. Things, all sorts of trays and things like that you can just put things in, treats or other scrunched up bits and pieces. Cushions to walk over, already I said, just keep it low. Things to make tunnels or anything else you can actually think of. The one important thing that you must remember is you must not leave your dogs alone, especially puppies, because especially if you are offering them objects that they might chew that might be inappropriate for the amount they chew. But equally, it is such a spectator sport. As long as you say nothing and let them do their thing, it is wonderful to just sit and watch your dogs explore. Believe me, it really is. It's a most fantastically relaxing, wonderful way to spend your time. But I highly, highly recommend and implore you to be with the dog when they are doing their enriched environment. So which dogs is it suitable for? Puppies, already said, help them join up their whole body. Adolescent dogs, when their legs are so long and they really are beginning to struggle how to control them, that is so brilliant. Rehome dogs to help strengthen them and give them confidence. Treat your rehome dogs like puppies. Think of them as puppies. You have to take them right back to the beginning and help them redevelop their bodies, because often rehome dogs' bodies are not in the best shape. This is a great way of starting that process. Dogs even recovering from surgery or illness, it's a lovely way to stimulate them and ask them to move around functionally, but not too quickly. So it's nice and safe. Older dogs, whose range of movement are less and slower, again, arthritic dogs, dogs that are just struggling with mobility, fantastic. Or dogs who've had injuries or surgery, I think we've already said that, who don't move particularly well. So I've got a video here and the link is under here, and we'll give you the link separately. But the link is here for you to go and have a look at a video on YouTube about us doing one of our enriched environments. It might just give you more of an idea of what it looks like for the dogs actually performing it, and also some things that you can include in it. But after watching it, just maybe think, oh, what type of actions did that dog do, those dogs do? How is that going to help them? Just try and think in another way physically of all the different actions that dog or those dogs did within that enriched environment. So another thing just to recommend, it's a book that I wrote a year or so ago, and it also helps you with enriched environment and explains a lot more about the physicality and what we're looking to do with a dog's functional movement, which in other words means the type of movement they should be able to perform along with their anatomy. So if you're interested in that, that book will give you a really good introduction to that. So I hope that that's given you a bit of an insight as to how enriched environment can be just the most incredible way of helping your dogs physically, or just giving them a wonderful fulfilled time, help them to develop their sort of inside out so they're much more stable, or help them if they're feeling a little uncomfortable. So it works on so many different levels. But as I said, and I will repeat, do not leave your dogs alone when you're doing this, but experiment with different things, different amounts of objects in different ways. It really is a fantastic thing for your dogs to be able to do, and for you to be able to offer your dogs. And when you come to looking at clients and helping clients, it's something also that you can recommend. So it helps dogs both from a psychological but also a physical perspective. I hope that's been interesting, and I look forward very much to hopefully seeing you later on in your studies. Thank you very much for listening.